Hey guys, welcome back to the Kubernetes series. If you observed, most of the configuration files like Docker Compose files, Kubernetes spec files, Ansible spec files are written in YAML. This is because YAML is more human readable and easy to write. So it makes sense to know what all we can do with YAML to make use of it to the best. In this chapter, we will be learning what YAML is, where do we use it, and how to write it. If you watch this chapter completely, writing spec files like Kubernetes YAML files will be a cakewalk for you. So without any further delay, let's get started. YAML stands for YAML Ain't Markup Language, meaning YAML is not a markup language like HTML and XML. A markup language is a system for annotating a document in a way that is visually distinguishable from the content. HTML is the best example of markup language. Well, if it is not markup language, what it is? It is a serialization language. I'm sure that you know what serialization is. Don't know? Don't worry. Let's understand what serialization is in simple terms. When you want to send some data from one system to another system, you need to send it over a network as a byte stream. So you convert your data to binary and send it over a network, and the receiving system will convert the binary back to the original data. But when you want to send an object, the receiving system may not reconstruct the exact object from the binary it received because of different OS or the languages used. So the data must be sent in a format that can be understood by both machines. So instead of converting your objects directly into binary, we convert the objects to a commonly agreed format that can be understood by both systems. Those common formats are called serialization languages. And the process of converting from objects to binary is called serialization, and the reverse process, which is converting the binary back to the original data, is called deserialization. Examples of serialization languages are YAML, JSON, and XML. YAML is more data oriented than markup oriented. It's recommended that configuration files be written in YAML rather than JSON. This is because YAML has better readability and is more user friendly. The main benefit of writing spec files in the YAML or JSON files is those files can be added to the source controls such as GitHub so that the changes can be tracked and audited. This is the simple YAML file. The same content can be written in JSON or XML with different syntax. JSON uses curly braces and XML uses angle brackets, and YAML doesn't use any such special characters. Instead, it uses line separation and indentation. This makes the YAML cleaner, as you can see. Let us try to create a simple YAML file and see what all we can write in the YAML file. I'm on the VS Code and I'm creating a new file, clusters.yaml. The extension can be YAML or just YML. Let's go with YAML. In general, most of the things in YAML file are in the form of key value pairs like name, local, cluster. So here we are specifying the cluster name as local cluster. So the general syntax would be key, colon, space, and the value. Space after the colon is mandatory. The other example would be is active as true. So this is the boolean value we are giving. YAML supports different data types like boolean, string, integer, etc. You might be wondering why this string is not enclosed in double quotes. You can use double quotes or single quotes or no quotes. That doesn't make any difference. We can write these YAML files in any text editor like Notepad or IDEs. Most of the IDEs have an extension for YAML to validate its syntax. As we are on VS Code, we can find out the extension for YAML and install it. As you can see, this is the extension by Red Hat. It's already installed in my VS Code. If it's not installed, go ahead and install it. Now our VS Code can validate the syntax. As YAML is indentation based, there are a lot of chances for syntax errors. So an extension like this will be of great help. Now let us try to delete the space after the colon and see what happens. As you can see, the red indication here, it's saying it's invalid. That way, the IDEs will be of great help to validate the syntax on the fly. There is nothing specific with the naming convention that we use in YAML. Some people uses camel case and some people uses snake case. As Kubernetes uses camel case, let's go ahead with camel case. We can also give dates like created at 2021 09 25. We can also give date as 21 11 15. Different date formats are supported by YAML. You can check out the documentation for supported date formats. By default, YAML auto detects the data type based on the value given. For example, if we give any number, it will treat it as an integer. And if we give any character, it treats it as a string. But we can explicitly mention the data type with exclamatory and the data type. So now this 1.22.1 is treated as a string. We can add comments in the YAML with hash in the YAML for better readability. For example, this is my local cluster information and this is on Minikube. YAML doesn't have support for the block or multi-line comments. Instead, we use multiple inline comments. Most of the IDE should have a shortcut for the block comments. For VS Code, it's control / or command /. Also, we can group the key value pairs under another key to create an object. Example, if I want to list down the access information for this node, I put access as a key and here I give the IP address as 192.168.58.2 and the port as 8443. So this is the access information of this node. So this constructs the object now. In YAML, we call it as a dictionary or map. As you know, we can create multiple clusters. To represent the multiple values or objects, we generally use arrays. The same thing can be done in YAML. We can write the list of clusters with hyphen space. And let's indent all these values to match with the name. So now this is an array element. So like this, we can have multiple array elements. So now let's add the dev cluster information. So dev cluster and it is created some 24th and the version is same and the IP address is maybe .3. So now we have the two clusters as the two elements of an array. So now I want you to take a pause and see the equivalent JSON for this YAML. So this is the equivalent JSON for the YAML that we written above. This might give you a better understanding. We can give the array inside the object also. Example here, nodes. In this cluster, I have multiple nodes. The multiple nodes can be written something like this. So node name as dev cluster 01 and type as master. We can add another node with hyphen name as dev cluster 02 and the type is worker node. So we can write the array inside the object also. Example, I want to add the tags for this node. So tags as dev and master. So these are the tags associated for this node. So these are the simple string values. Please note the indentation for the array elements. They can start from the parent level or they can be indented like this. Both are same. Since YAML is superset of JSON, we can also write JSON style maps or arrays. Example, instead of writing these array elements like this, we can also write in JSON style like dev and master. Let's do the same thing for the worker node. And this is worker. We can add the same nodes information to the local cluster also. And let's replace the dev with local. Not only these primitive values that we can write in JSON style, we can also write the objects as a JSON style. You can give it a try. Also, if we have the data in multiple lines but still want to consider it as a single line, then we can use something called folded block. Example, I have a description as this is the local cluster created on Minikube and the driver I used is Docker. So when we have text something like which is longer, it is difficult to read. So we can split this text in the multi-lines like this. And to denote that these two lines should be treated as a single line, we should as a greater than symbol here, and we should move it to the next line. Please note the indentation here. So let's add one space here. So now this will be treated as a single line. Now let us see the reverse case for this. Let's say we have something like long description, and we have the data in the multiple lines. And now instead of treating it as a single line, we want to preserve the new lines, etc. Meaning we want to put it as it is. So this is called literal block. So to preserve the new lines, we should give pipe symbol here. So now this will preserve the new lines. Whereas in the folded block, it will not preserve the new lines. Everything will be considered as a single line. So now this entire configuration is one document. We can write multiple YAML documents in the same YAML file with triple dash separator. So when we say triple dash, it means that the new document is starting. So now we can start writing another document in the same YAML file. Also, YAML has a feature called anchors. With anchors, we can put some data in a variable and use it in multiple places without writing it again and again. Example, let's assume that version is same for all the clusters. Instead of mentioning the version again and again for all the clusters, we will store this value in a variable with ampersand and variable name. So cluster version. So now we can use this cluster version in other places. Example here, instead of defining it again, we can just use the same variable here. And while accessing that variable, we should access it with star symbol. So to declare a variable, we should use ampersand symbol, and to access it, we should use star symbol. I think we covered most of the stuff. I have attached this file and the equivalent JSON files in the description of the video. Please go through those two files. Then you can understand even better. You can have a look at the Docker Compose file we have written in the Docker series. Now you will understand it more clearly as you know everything about YAML. I'm sure that now you can write any complex data in YAML. Get ready to see the power of YAML in the next Kubernetes hands-on video. My name is Pavan Elthepu, and I thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please share it with your friends and do not forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any updates.